Greetings, urban farmers, gardeners, and healthy food visionaries. Farmer Greg here, and welcome to the 589th episode of the Urban Farm Podcast, where every day we work together to educate and inspire you to become part of your food revolution. And today is Farmer Friday, a quick and dirty stab at growing your garden. Each episode will feature less than 10 minutes of essential content for growing your garden, and some episodes we will answer your questions. If you have one, send it to questions@urbanfarm.org. Today, we're talking with our own Janis from Two Piece in a Pod Farm. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. I'm here today with Janis Norton. You guys know her from, she's basically the manager of the Urban Farm, and she and I have been working together for a few years. Why don't you tell us a story about how we met and how you got into the Urban Farm?
Oh my goodness. When I was a parent of three teenage boys, I went back to school. And one of the classes that I took to further my education was a whim. I took it completely on a whim. I wanted to learn a little bit more about gardening and urban and organic foods, I guess, to have conversations with some of my friends. And I took your class, and you blew me away with the easiness, the simplicity, the application of what we were terming at the time sustainability. Since then, I know that we both prefer to use the word regenerative, but it became transformative for me on how everything in my life could become easier to do and less overwhelming, trying to change from the culture that I had grown up in into doing something that was going to make a better impact on my not my footprint, but my being in the world, my place here on the world.
Footprint's good. So along the way, we started working together, and you started out as an assistant, and now I just call you my manager because you manage everything I do.
I started off as a very pushy person trying to get an internship. And and the more we worked together, the more my ability to organize became such a valuable conversation with us that I just kept, wiggling my way in. And yeah, now I'm the general manager. I'm not basically the manager, I'm the general manager.
There you go. All right. So along that time, and we have about 2 minutes left. So along that time, you bought a new house and it had a dirt backyard. Tell me about that.
I had to start over. My husband and I were downsizing, and I had an opportunity to just start implementing some of what I was learning. And my husband wanted a new house. We got a yard that was completely blank slate, and it was a much bigger challenge than I realized because I did not think it through on how the soil was such an important decision on my food growing capabilities. So I had some very tricky challenges to overcome to make my blank slate yard in the desert of Arizona something that could actually grow food.
And the biggest problem you had was caliche, or highly compacted dirt in your backyard that wouldn't.
Yeah, the home that we bought was near an old riverbed, and what we have in that area with our alkaline and calcium rich soil was something called caliche, which is basically a natural concrete. And
Right.
because of the way by the way they graded our yard, it was only about 18 inches down. Caliche tends to form 3 to 4 feet down, but because of the way my yard was graded, it was 18 inches. And so I basically had a slab under my soil that was not easy to grow in.
Right. So what is the single biggest thing you did to fix it?
The first thing that I did was the most dramatic thing that I've ever seen happen in my yard was we brought in a huge layer of woody mulch and put it down. You had talked about this for the longest time, and here I was being able to chance to implement it, and I did it for the entire backyard. 6 to 10 inches of woody mulch.
And you even terraced
My
your backyard, right?
I had to, because when we started planting the trees, I realized 18 inches of soil, even with maybe another 6 inches of soil, was not going to be sufficient for fruit trees. So I built in my own terrace. I put a wall in and terraced about the last 10 to 15 feet of the yard. And I put in another foot and a half of mulch and soil and compost, not mulch, but soil and compost to try and build up the soil. And then I put the woody mulch on top of that.
Wow. All right. So you went from, what's this, 5 or 6 years ago, you went from a dirt backyard. Walk us through what your backyard looks like now and what it produces.
Okay. Right now, it is the spring of 2021, and I am so excited about going into my yard. When I walk out my patio, the ground right outside my patio is covered with this woody mulch, and I've got this nice, it's soft because we got the good quality stuff, and it's organic, so I don't have to worry about any kind of chemicals. And then I've got a big mulberry tree that's growing on the side with it. Next to it is a Janis, of course, Janis seedless fig. Behind that, I've got a nice little wall, and that is right behind the wall is my grapevines, which provide a much needed cover or shade for the trunks of my deciduous trees. I've got a couple of apples, I've got 5 plums, I've got 5 peaches, and I've got 2 apricots back in my terrace. And then I've got some more mulberry bushes and some artichokes and sweet potatoes. Oh, I love my sweet potatoes. In fact, in the fall, my sweet potatoes are like this slow growing green glacier coming
Oh, I
out
like that.
of my back terrace. It is the coolest thing as it just kind of grows out from the back of my yard into the front.
So it's a solid, dense jungle back there now.
Portions of it very much are, yes. In fact, there are pictures in some of our classes where I've taken of my friend Raymond, who is literally surrounded in a sea of sweet potato vines while he's standing in between my trees.
So we'll add a couple of pictures on the show notes page for today's podcast. So if you just go to urbanfarm.org and look for episode 589, you'll be able to see pictures. No, that's good. We're good. Well, thank you so much, Janis.
Thank you, Greg. And I am loving this transformation in my yard. Thank you for encouraging me to try this.
You bet.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.